float. They say black folk don't swim. Who don't swim? We float. We float, we float, we float, we float. To the blue note. Hey.
Is that a Donald Byrd?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I'm right outside DC, so definitely like, you know, Donald Byrd and the Blackbirds is in the lexicon for sure. And Places and Spaces like is a classic. Absolutely.
When you create music, are you pulling from that energy, or are you just kind of pulling from the music from now?
I think I'm definitely channeling more classic energy and references, but I definitely think that I apply like modern techniques in what I do. I use sampling in my practice. You know, I write, I play different instruments, I produce. And I mean, I know that I released a project with my band, and that was like it's called For the Source actually, because the way that we played it is, you know, we got together in a live room and we played down some arrangements that I made, you know, and that is like a very classic approach to doing like recording and making music. So now I'm trying to think, you know, how do I grow from that place, and what does it mean for me to have a more produced sound? Like, what are some other elements that I want to bring into my music? And I'm like, you know, I'm experimenting right now, and I'm excited to kind of like be in this place of synthesis and figuring it out.
The R Street theme, how did that come about?
It's a recording of the Black Folks Don't Swim theme. Like, that's the name of the the license for the work in ASCAP that I have. But it's the first song that I ever wrote when Des literally proposed the name, and I started riffing, and I like, you know, I wrote this melody, I wrote these words, and it became our theme song. Like, I love writing theme songs. So it's a theme song of the band, and it's a theme song that we approach a lot of different ways, because again, we're committed to experimenting. We do a lot of different versions and takes of the music that we have. We give a lot of different looks. And the R Street theme was a specific, wonderful moment in our history where we got to go to R Street Studio, which is a studio in DC. It's, I want to say, the only Black woman-owned recording studio in DC. And it's ran by Holly Bayham, and she is just an OG. Like, she knows so many people in the music industry. She built out the studio space, and she really like connected with us and blessed us by allowing us to think about, like, you know, what does it mean for us to interpret our music in a studio? Like, R Street Studio is actually like one of the first places that we ever got to go in and record and try to like figure out, like, what does it mean to even record something?
Was it a challenging song to create?
I think it was challenging for us to create that recording. It was something that we hadn't quite figured out how to do yet. Like, you know, I'm from the tradition where I'm a band leader. I call the people, I make the arrangements, we rehearse them, and then we play them down. And then that's what we put out. Like, that's like, my band knows how to play. And that's what we do. Like, I'm from the tradition, I would say, of like, I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's who I grew up on. I grew up going to Baptist church. So every single weekend, the band was high power kicking. Like, I feel like you can tell a lot about an artist based on, you know, their live album cuts being as ubiquitous and well-known as their studio cuts. And who else is like that? Erykah Badu, live album just as well known as the studio album. Jill Scott, Flowetry, like, these are the people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is my lexicon. So it's like to sit and think, okay, well, how do we create layers? What does it mean for, like, okay, just me and drums played at the same time at first. And then we layered on, you know, some spacious atmospheric keys. And then we put a chant in there. Like, how do we weave all these things together? And that's like what production is. And that's why I'm glad too to be in a collective with so many different philosophies and thoughts on how do we produce what our universe is and the sounds that we make. So we were really like figuring that out and experimenting and the R Street theme. And, you know, we've made other recordings since then and sort of like really started to flesh out, yeah, what's our approach to creating things. So hopefully, basically, long story short, hopefully it gets easier for us and less challenging. I think it is in different ways. I think that especially amongst the people who work with us, it is. Because the other thing too is like, honestly, you know, this band specifically came from my desire to work with other Black queer people and to have folks who understood how our stories present in the world and some of the complexities of allowing us to show up in our identities. And that does not exist for sure in every space in the music community here, or and probably anywhere. But like, you know, like I said, I really do like emphasize that I came from a jazz background, and the way that jazz music looks right now, the way that it's been institutionalized, it really does not always support or create environments that allow gender marginalized people to thrive. And that was definitely my experience. I was not happy, I was not comfortable, I was not inspired. I kind of like moved away from playing my upright bass, which was like the instrument that I really started to think of myself as a musician and a professional on, because I just didn't like where it was leading me and the types of environments it was leading me in. Like, I really think that people, when we think about community, it's not just the people who are included, but also it's about the people who are excluded. And people need to be more honest about what their communion is based on. And a lot of people just base it on reproducing social norms, like, you know, everybody's straight, everybody's cisgender, everybody's, you know, white or white passing. Like, it's not really acknowledging who's excluded by these spaces that we create. But
why do you think that is? Can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm. It's homophobia, it's transphobia. Like, we cannot look at society without seeing the systems of power that, you know, actually determine people's realities. And I think that's where people kind of get things a little screwed up, is that, you know, people want to talk about society as something that's not moving through them, and the interactions that they have, the way that they form their own identities, and the way that they treat other people. And, you know, when it's really hard sometimes to look at how, and ask yourself like the personal reflection questions, how am I reproducing systems of power in my life with the ways that people are treated? Like, you know, when I look around me and see like, oh, hey, you know, this person is making less than me. This person is having trouble accessing healthcare. Like, I mean, people don't think about the real world implications of, you know, the systems of power that they are recreating in their lives and the communities around them. And I just, you know, being the type of person that I am, and from the identities that I carry as a transgender person, as a Black person, I just so often am creating the world where those things don't impact me the same ways. Like, that's what music allows me to do, is to organize around being in a space where people are going to use my pronouns, organizing in a space where people see me for who I am holistically as a person, and allow me to show up to that, while also challenging me to be better, challenging me to deepen my relationship with myself. And that's the amazing thing about having a community around us that supports us, that supports us, that supports us, that supports us, that supports us.